audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Matt Ohayon with you on the Sick Podcast on this Friday evening. Welcome to your weekend. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We're also brought to you by Bittt Tibi beer. Bittt Tibi has launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer perfect for hot summer days like today, with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% alcohol per can. Available in a pack of 6 or 12 in groceries and dépanneurs all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. Discover a world of luxury at Playground. Explore their 30,000 square foot expansion with thrilling games, gourmet dining, and live entertainment. Located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes away from downtown Montreal. Playground. Experience the Strip without the trip. Now, shop all your sports license lifestyle apparel, including caps, hoodies, and tees of your favorite teams of all major sports leagues at sportsbuffshop.com. Use code SICK10 for 10% off all their items. And finally, we're brought to you by also Manta Sleep, the only mask designed and optimized for the deepest possible sleep in any environment. 100% blackout for deeper sleep, infinitely adjustable, and for a personalized fit. It is absolute comfort. Visit mantasleep.com and use code SICKHABS for 10% off your order. Okay, again, listen, we're in the dog days of summer. Not that much going on in Habsland, but I came across a couple of interesting things that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to talk about them with my usual Friday guest. He's Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Listen, it's we're pre-recording this episode because you're going to Lasso. I can tell you from the past 2 weeks at Il Sonique and Osheaga, it's hot. Yeah. Drink a lot of water. A lot of water.
Or have a cool, tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, or have a cool, refreshing beer in your hand. And here's a nice thing: water. If you forget your reusable water bottle, or if you're a forgetful person and don't want to bring it because you're going to forget it, there is $3.50. So there you go. So they're not.
Beer was $15 last year, if I remember right.
Yeah, beer's it's expensive. No, last week it was $11 and change. It wasn't too bad. So that should be a lot of fun. And maybe you'll even run into some Habs players because
I'm sure there'll be a few there. There's a lot of Habs players are country music fans. And I know Eric Church, who's playing tonight. I know Carey Price was a huge fan of Eric Church. In fact, his wedding song when he got married was an Eric Church song.
Well, there you go. So who's the guy the guy you're excited for today?
That's who I'm looking forward to seeing tonight.
Okay.
Last year was Chris Stapleton, which was awesome. And,
yeah.
Eric Church is to me, the coolest guy in country music. So he was supposed to come to Montreal a few years ago, but he ended up canceling out. So I had tickets for that show, but looking forward to seeing him tonight.
Yeah, and just in the festival experience outdoors, there's really nothing like it. It's the best. Okay, so listen, the Habs aren't busy. Like you said, they're busy getting ready for Lasso. So not too much has happened, but interesting thing that I came across, 2 interesting things. Remember last year they released an all access kind of draft documentary where, you know, they kind of showed more than I think a lot of people expected concerning the David Reinbacher pick. Now, kind of reading between the lines, it kind of felt like, to me at least, the way I read it in there is that they weren't unanimous on David Reinbacher. That's what it felt like, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm.
It kind of felt like Jeff Gorton was on the Matvei Michkov train, but they ended up going with Reinbacher in the end. So we got another draft documentary today.
Yeah.
I think this time they were unanimous on Demidov, though.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's good that they weren't unanimous, right? That means they're not surrounding themselves with yes men. And I think that might have been a bit of an issue with Marc Bergevin. People might have been afraid to challenge him, but that's good that they have debates and they go into it. And I mean, I remember Jeff Gorton saying in the video last year, we don't want the best player now. We want the best player 4 years down the road when he's fully developed. And they believed that was Juraj Slafkovsky. But yeah, this year it seems to be they had more of a unanimous viewpoint. Obviously, they need goal scorers, they need forwards who can score. But the fact that they did have debate, I think that's really important moving forward with this team, is that Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes and Marty St. Louis have enough confidence in themselves that they're not going to surround themselves by yes men.
You know what I'm excited for is to see just the reaction that the brass is going to have, like how they could hold it together once I believe it was Columbus who picked right ahead of them, made their pick, and it wasn't Demidov, because I remember when the Canadians drafted Cole Caulfield and when the Flyers did not select him, Marc Bergevin let out a fist bump, and that was him. So I'm interested to see what their reaction will be and what their thoughts were when he was made available to them at 5.
Well, it's great that they're doing these videos. There's such a demand. Fans want to know the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, I've been watching on Netflix that Receivers documentary they have on the NFL, which is fantastic. And they had the one on the QBs before, and there's more and more and more of these things coming up. I see Notre Dame football is going to have a behind fans, and especially in Montreal, fans can't get enough. So it's good. I remember they used to do the 24-CH show, and there was that sort of infamous video of Michel Therrien chewing out PK Subban, and Subban was basically saying, "Oh, tell me what you want me to do," and Therrien didn't want to tell him what to do. He just wanted to yell at him. And I think that maybe after that, the Canadians edited a little bit more closely in things. But I think it's good that they show stuff like this. And I think fans really, really want it. I mean, sports is entertainment, and people want to be entertained. And especially in Montreal, people want to know everything about the Canadians. They want to know what they're like on the ice and off the ice. They want to know stories behind them. They want to know what makes them tick. And, I think I mentioned in the previous podcast with Chantal Maccabee, when she took over her role as vice president of communications, that's one of the things she wanted to do, is get the players to open up and let the fans fall in love with the players the way she fell in love with Guy Lafleur, which is how she became a huge Canadians fan. So these things I think are fantastic. And there's also the Crave, I think, is coming out with that 8-part documentary series looking back at the Habs season last year. I'm really looking forward to seeing that also. And it'll be interesting again to see just how much access they provide and how heavily edited it was. If it's too heavily edited, it's not, people aren't going to be interested in it, right? People want to see some of the warts behind the scenes or some of the debates that they might have had over draft picks or whatnot. It'll be interesting to see how much they go into Joel Armia being sent down to Laval last year. Like how much of behind the scenes are going to go into that and the impact that had on him and the sort of kicking the butt at Gavin, right? Look at the way he came back and played afterwards. So I'm looking forward to that series. And look at all these things I think are just great because, even covering the team, we get limited access to the players. We get them in the locker room after the games. The more it goes on, the less access there is. I mean, it used to be on the road when you went in the room after a game, almost every player was there. Same after a game at home, almost every player was in the room sitting there. Now you go in the room after a game, there's maybe 2 or 3 guys. That's all you're going to get. So the access isn't as good to the media as it used to be. But the fact they're giving this access to fans to see what's going on behind the scenes, I think fans are going to eat it up.
Well, it's like you said, this is what it's all about. Sports is show business. As much as it is, as much as you want to win, you're also there to entertain. And no one does that better than the NFL. I mean, the NFL has been with HBO doing Hard Knocks for, as long as I could remember. And teams, and this is how it works. You said it, this is how it works. So you get the raw footage, and then the teams who get filmed, they kind of pick and choose what to include. But they also there's also an understanding when you go with an outside producer like Crave, because the draft documentary is, that's going to be the Canadians piece. So that's handled by the Canadians and the NHL. This is, a production company that's taking the charge on this. So the Canadians, while they're going to control a lot of the content that's going to be in there, they also understand that they agreed to be a part of this and that they need to put some stuff that, normally you probably wouldn't want to get out in. It's funny because I think about the Hard Knocks that was on this year, and I don't know why, because just think about teams being in charge. The New York Giants, basically in short, their star running back, he was up for free agency, and there was a conversation included in the show between the general manager and the running back, and basically the general manager said, "We're not going to pay you what you want, but you're going to give us a chance to match whatever contract you get, right?" And he was like, sure, I guess, maybe. And then he just went to another team and did not even give them the chance. I don't know why the Giants decided to let that in, but listen, that's a rawness of a contract negotiation and how they deal with things. And I'm excited to see, like you said, the internal conversations about Yoel Armia. I'm excited to see maybe in the draft documentary, some of the phone calls Kent Hughes was receiving for that 21st overall pick, or maybe some of the feelers he was putting out for that 21st overall pick. Yeah. So I'm excited to see all those things. Even as media members, we can't get enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, they included some awkward stuff last year too. I remember when they had, I think it was Ryan Backer, and they asked him that awkward question.
Oh yeah,
in line at the bank, and somebody butts in front of the woman in front of you, and it was like, what?
Yeah. That was
already seen some things with the Canadians asking, what animal you would be. Again, that question. But what would be a good behind the scenes video is behind the scenes editing of the videos. Like who decided to decide? You go back, remember the road to the Winter Classic a few years ago when Bruce Boudreau was the Capitals, I guess. Remember when on that F-bomb rant? Remember?
Oh my God, yeah.
One of the classic F-bomb rant. It was awesome, right? It was awesome. Yeah. Like, people don't get to see that usually. And you see it even more so now. Like even on a regular basis with the Canadians on Twitter, you see them, the guys coming in the room after a game. You see some, Cole Caulfield kidding around with his teammates. You see people eat this stuff up. People can't get enough of this. It's not, sports aren't just on the field. I know years ago when I was sports editor at the Gazette, I went to a sports editor's seminar, and one of the sports editors who talked, he was at the Dallas Morning News at the time. He's a big name in U.S. sports. And his big thing was, he said, tell your reporters when they go to a game, don't wear blinders, because sometimes the best stories aren't on the ice or on the field. They're outside. And, I've had a couple experiences like that. I remember Brendan Gallagher in Calgary watching a practice one morning. There was a woman there holding up a sign, please give my mom her last wish, Brendan, and sign an autograph. I went over and talked to the woman. It turned out her mother was dying from cancer, and Brendan Gallagher was her favorite player and whatnot. And Gallagher came over afterwards and talked to them, and I got a really nice story out of it. Sometimes the best stories are outside. And the other thing this guy said that drove it crazy with the reporter, he said, guy pitches a no-hitter in baseball. You go in the room, everybody goes to the pitcher. I don't want my reporter to go to the pitcher. Go to the catcher. Get something that nobody else gets. Ask the catcher, what the calls or what the last pitch. Go to the guy who was the last out on the other team. Talk to him about the pressure of getting up, because otherwise you're going to get the same thing everybody else gets. And it's something, I've tried to do myself when you go into the locker room, is go where everybody else isn't, so you get something different, especially today when so many of the interviews are on Twitter and social media, and everybody's getting the same quotes, and everybody's getting the same things. I go back a couple of seasons ago in Arizona, the Canes had just called up Anthony Richard, and I think I was the only English media guy on that road trip. I don't think Eric Engels and Arpin Basu were there. And I walked into the room afterwards, and all the French guys went to Anthony Richard, of course, and Cole Caulfield was sitting by himself in the corner. I went over and Cole, you got a couple of minutes. I spoke with him for about 20 minutes. I got like 3 columns out of it that nobody else got. So part of the sports media that is there's so much sports media. There's so many, people just at home on their own Twitter accounts or doing whatever, that it's hard to get stuff that other people don't have. And it's important to be able to do that to make what you're writing unique, right? Otherwise, everybody's just the same. So getting back to what we're talking about with these behind the scenes videos and whatnot, it's great to get that, because media, we don't get that access. We're not in the room when they're having their scouting meetings or whatnot. We're not in the locker room right after the game when the players come off the ice. It's like a 10-minute wait or 15-minute wait before we get in. So again, I think it's entertainment, and I think people are realizing this. I think the new Canadians management team and it includes France Margaret Blanger, who's the head of Group CH. They realize that you're selling more than just hockey. You're selling the people on the team. You're selling the characters. You're selling the stories, right? People love the stories about sports. So it's really, I said, I'm looking forward to watching the draft video. I'm looking forward to watching the 8-part documentary. I'm not a huge Notre Dame football fan, but I'll watch the games on Saturday. I'm looking forward to watching that sort of behind the scenes of Notre Dame football. How cool is that going to be? As I mentioned, the Netflix series on the receivers is just fantastic behind the scenes and gives you just an idea of what these guys put their bodies through. They're asking one of the receivers, what are the odds of you getting injured this season? He goes, 100%. It's the NFL, you're going to get hurt. So, I think it's really good.
Yeah, and just to wrap that up, it's the leagues that have been doing that for years is the Premier League in England, which started today. So sports are coming back, people, slowly but surely. The Premier League does that very well with their All or Nothing series. They had a couple teams. The Toronto Maple Leafs were on All or Nothing. A lot of Habs fans just tuned in for that last episode to see them get eliminated by the Canadiens in the COVID playoffs. And of course, the NFL has just been doing this forever. So it's great. It's great. And again, this is going to be, I guarantee, because of how crazy Habs fans are and how many Habs fans there are across country, really, because this is going to be on Crave. Yeah. I guarantee this is going to be the number one show on Crave when it comes out. There's no doubt about it.
And I'm not a huge soccer guy, but I was on Netflix one night a year or so ago, and I was looking for something to watch, and the Sunderland Till I Die, but the Sunderland soccer team. That's a good show. I watched it. It was I binge watched it. It was so good. Just sort of a behind the scenes look at this soccer club and what it means to the community, and how they were being relegated and dropped out of the top division and fighting to get back. And it starts off with they're in a church, and the priest or minister or whatever is doing his whole service is about the football team, the soccer team. It's all, praise the boys and may they all be, the whole thing. It just shows you, we think Canadians fans are passionate. You watch that Sunderland Until I Die, and you realize how much these soccer teams mean. And I said, I'm not a huge soccer fan. Until that point, I didn't really know the Sunderland team. But watching that, it was just fantastic and so well done.
Well, that's the biggest thing, is that you want to grow, because first of all, your Canadians fans, whoever is a fan of the team is going to watch that no matter what. But there's something about it's like the F1 show. There's something about just turning the sport into reality TV that just drives so many eyes to that screen, and it drives the popularity of the sport and the team and whatever else goes with it. It's always great, because this is going to be I think this is going to be really, really common for the NHL. I wouldn't be surprised if ESPN partnered with HBO and they started doing this with a couple of American teams, to start growing the game more in the States. But maybe that's putting too much faith in the NHL.
Well, that Netflix, the F1 series is a perfect example. Drive to Survive, I think it's called.
Yeah.
That drove, that grew. I've covered the F1 the last few years, and people within F1 have said that the sport just took off after that. Because people got to know the drivers, right? They knew the characters behind the scenes. They knew the team principals and the drivers and the infeuding and what went behind, and it turned people into fans. And like you said, Canadians fans are going to watch this no matter what, but people who maybe aren't Canadians fans might watch it. Netflix even goes beyond, worldwide. People watch, like I said, with the Sunderland soccer team. I'm sort of a Sunderland soccer fan because I watched that series. It's that behind the scenes access, I think, is really important to selling the sport, whatever the sport is.
So last week we spoke about some player projections and what would make for a successful season. And when we spoke about Juraj Slafkovsky, we spoke about him briefly because we've been talking about him a lot this summer. But we're going to talk about him again today because I came across a very, very interesting stat. So last week, I think we kind of agreed on 25 goals would be a good season for him. Now, this is a stat that I found super interesting, and it was on NHL.com. And basically, Juraj Slafkovsky last season was one of the NHL leaders in high danger shots on goal and high danger goals. So let me read it. So he was among the leaders in high danger shots on goals. He had 70, which is in the 89th percentile, and high danger goals, he had 13. So 82nd in that. Now, I don't know how those converge and, what's the equilibrium and how the law of averages would take into place. But to me, it seems like if it's a high danger chance, you should be scoring more than just 1 out of every 8 of those, maybe. I don't know. He was in the 89th percentile, but only in the 82nd percentile in goals. So if those two converge, he's definitely going to hit that mark. And if he just keeps on this track, because, he's a hard man to cover. He's a hard man to cover.
Part of that has to do with Nick Suzuki setting him up, right? And I'm sure the second half numbers were a lot better than the first half numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And, once he started shooting the puck more and just watching, he's always been a confident kid, like right from the day before the draft. And we were speaking to him in Old Montreal. He oozes confidence, right? That's one of the reasons the Canadians drafted him. But on the ice, he's sort of, I mentioned this thing last week, looking to pass more than shoot. And he's got that wicked one-timer. And like once it starts going, and Adam Nicholas has done it. Adam Nicholas deserves a lot of credit for what Juraj Slafkovsky's done, working with video with him and working after practice with him and working all kinds of stuff. And I was talking with Adam Nicholas at one point last season, and he said, I asked him about a certain specific thing. And he said, well, we're working on things one at a time. Like they're taking work on this, then we'll work on this, then we'll work on this, then we'll work on that. And now we're seeing it all come together sort of. And this is only after 2 years in the NHL. So I know Adam Nicholas spent the summer here. I'm not sure exactly when Slafkovsky's coming into town, but I'm sure they'll be working together again. And yeah, we were saying 25 goals would be a good season. It would, but I'd expect it to be even more than that, right? You don't want to make that huge jump. I mean, as Ken Hughes has said, he expects Slafkovsky to have another dip this season. It's just he's 20 years old. It's just part of growing in the NHL. And also by saying that, Hughes takes some pressure off him too. Like Ken Hughes is a smart guy. Juraj Slafkovsky heard that comment, and maybe, what do you mean I'm going to have a dip? But if he does have a dip, it's like, okay, I'm 20 years old. It's not a lot of 20-year-olds are playing in the NHL. Not a lot of 20-year-olds are playing in their third season in the NHL, and not a lot of 20-year-olds have scored 20 goals in the NHL already and played the way he did at the end of last season. So as we're mentioning before about the behind-the-scenes draft videos, and the one from Slafkovsky, Bob brought up those. They were just so high on this kid, and they saw the potential. And as we said, with Jeff Gorton going to that draft, so we don't want the best player now. We want the best player 3-4 years down the road. Well, now we're going into 3 years down the road, right? So it's been really fun watching Slafkovsky. I've really, early in the season, last season, he just looked lost out there. And then watching him, learn the defensive zone better and learning to win puck battles and learning how strong he is. Just realizing that how strong he is. I mean, he was growing up, he was a man playing against boys, right? When he was a kid, guys would bounce off him. But now he's realizing, I can be physical with these big NHL defensemen. I can win these battles. And you mentioned he's a hard guy to check. He scored quite a few goals last season too, like in front of the net. We started seeing that, deflections and rebounds. He's a big man. He's a hard man to move. I mean, he's sort of like a John LeClair, right? When John LeClair was with the Canadians, he's a tough guy to move in front of the net. He's another guy that we saw his confidence grow. Right, and then exploded, obviously, and went to Philadelphia. And he played with Lindros on that Legion of Doom line. But for Slafkovsky, he's got, there's everything there for him to become, we're saying 25 goals for next season would be a realistic sort of low bar for him. But I mean, I asked Nick Suzuki after Suzuki scored, the 30 goals, will Slafkovsky be a 30 goal scorer in the NHL? And no hesitation, Suzuki went, oh yeah, for sure he's going to score 30 goals in the NHL, and he will. Whether it's next season, we'll see. Maybe it'll be 2 years from now.
Yeah, and just to pick up on a couple of things you said there, when Kent Hughes said expect a dip, I don't think he means, for the fans out there that are, that could take that very literally, I don't think he means he's going to look lost like he did in the first.
No, but he might go 10 games without a goal.
Exactly.
No.
That's just the nature of the game.
No, he's not going to look lost in the defensive zone again. He's not going to cough up pucks along the boards, like the things he's allowed. But as he's saying, like he takes a dip, I think he's talking production. Go 10 games without a goal or something. That can happen, right? That's, as Pat Hickey, one of his favorite lines, if you're a 30 goal scorer, that means there's at least 52 games that you didn't score.
And, exactly. Yeah. So he'll go through that, but just as any other player in the NHL or on the team will go through, because frankly, we know that this team, as it's constructed right now, it's not going to go very far. And you know, they have talent, but the talent they have can only take them so far in an 82 game grind.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be interesting to see how they manage that after and how they break out of that, but also to see how they're playing. Because I remember I was getting frustrated, and I brought this up to you. I think it was at the midway point of the season, maybe December-ish, January, where Martin St. Louis kept saying, you know, it's coming along for Slafkovsky. It's coming along. It's coming along. But there were no points being put up on the board. And I said, hey, you know, this is a results-based business. You know, at a certain point, you gotta, if it's coming along, you gotta put up points. So that happened, and then Slafkovsky kind of shut me up in the second half of the season. So I mean, I'm interested to see how that develops even further, because I don't think it's fair to expect him to score at the clip that he scored at for the second half, because I think he was at 40 points in 42 games. I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's at a point per game yet, but hey, he might be. So excited to see how that develops.
The power play this season, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Lane Hudson can do to add to this power play. The power play's got to get better. I mean, we'll see. Marty St. Louis is going to have probably more of a say in the power play this year as a head coach. But we've been talking about the Canadiens making a trade. Like, I still expect that Kent Hughes will make a trade before the start of the season, but it's not 100% guaranteed, because this management team is just so patient, right? They don't rush. They're not in their. This is only year 3. We're going to the third full year of the rebuild. You know, you still got Gallagher, you still got Anderson, you still got Dvorak, you still got Armia. Those are 4 contracts left over from Mark Bergevin. That's $20 million next season. That's almost a quarter of your payroll on those 4 guys who have been underachievers, right? So they got to hope at least one of these guys, like Armia, can continue from where he picked up. You got 3 more years of Brendan Gallagher's contract. You got 3 more years of Josh Anderson's contract. There's only 1 more year with Dvorak and Armia. You know, we were talking about Patrick Laney possibly being a trade. Like, I wonder, would Josh Anderson back to Columbus where he started? Could that be part of something to get Laney here if they want Laney? So just with those contracts, you go 3 years down the road. Now Gallagher's contract's gone, $6.5 million. Anderson's contract's gone, $5.5 million. Dvorak and Armia are gone. They're in a better position then to make a trade or sign a big free agent or do something like that. So I still expect Kent Hughes will make a trade before the start of the season. But if he doesn't, they're willing to be patient. And if they don't do anything, I'm looking forward to the golf tournament and just asking Jeff Molson, how patient are you willing to be? How much more are you willing to be moving forward? He's a guy not making the playoffs to lose money. Is that like kudos to Jeff Molson. He realized this thing had to be torn apart and rebuilt. And that's what he did when he hired Gorton. And he stepped back a bit too, right? He was sort of the director of hockey operation. He stepped back, brought in Gorton, brought in Hughes, brought in St. Louis, brought in Adam Nicholas, brought in all these people they brought in since they brought in, and they have a good team there. But they're just so patient. And a big reason for that is that, Kent Hughes doesn't need this job, right? Kent Hughes is a very rich man from what he did. Marty St. Louis doesn't need this job. He's a very rich man from what he did. So they don't have, it's not like Dominic Ducharme, for example, when he was coaching, oh my God, if I lose this job, what's going to happen? What's going to go on? So they're willing to be patient, and they have this plan that they put together, and they're sticking with it. And Jeff Molson, if Jeff Molson doesn't sign off on it, they're not sticking with it, right? It's so if they don't do anything before the golf tournament, that's going to be one of my questions for Jeff Molson. Like, how much longer are you willing to be patient and stick with this program moving forward?
Well, I think they know that next year when Demidov comes in, I think they know that's still not enough. They need something. They need to add, whether it be another top 6 piece, another top line piece. I think right now I like this quote that actually Brad Treliving used. I heard it yesterday when he was talking on Overdrive on TSN 1050. He said, a lot of teams try to hit home runs.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, we're in the business of just hitting singles, because you hit enough singles, you're on base, you start driving in runs every now and then, and singles are good enough. And the Leafs are trying to do that. And I think the Canadians, I don't want to say they struck out, because they added Demidov and Michael Hage, who looks like he's going to be good.
Yeah.
But I think you needed a little more. And I think on this offseason, if I had to put a score on the offseason, I would say 3 for the league, 1 for the Canadians. That's the score of the offseason right now. They hit a triple with Demidov. They hit a single with Michael Hage, but you didn't do anything for the now. And I think fans are going to start to get very tired of the development talk, development.
The other, even more interesting than how much more patient is Jeff Molson going to be, is how much more patient are Canadians fans going to be, and season ticket holders, and that spend a lot of money, and people who spend a lot of money going to the games and beers and everything else. But you talk about a rebuilding plan, like 5 years is usually, I think you got to give a rebuilding plan 5 years. Same as I think when you draft a guy, you got to wait 5 years before you can really decide. So I said we're moving into year 3. So next year, year 4, Demidov comes in, right? Dvorak's contract's gone. Armia's contract's gone. It's $8 million. That's money to go out and get Jonathan Marchessault type player, right? A guy that now you're bringing Demidov and a free agent, or through a trade, somebody, you got $8 million to spend, right? And then 2 more years after that, you've got Gallagher and Anderson's contracts off the book. So that's why I can understand sort of the patience. These guys are looking ahead, and Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton and Molson see that also, right? Okay, so where are we going to be next year? Like, it's not, Gorton said at I guess it was at the draft, like he's not afraid to use the P word like he was last year. He didn't want to mention playoffs. Like he said, they'd like to make the playoffs this season. They think the players on the team deserve to be given that shot by bringing somebody else in, which is why I still think they'll make a trade. But they're looking ahead, right? I'm sure their plan, they're not going to, we've asked, I've asked before, how many years is this plan going to take? And they won't give you a direct answer, because different things change and different things happen. And, do you get a first pick? Do you get a third pick? There's lots of things that can happen. But I think 5 years is a good thing. I said we're going into year 3. So year 3, if they miss the team they have now, they're not making the playoffs. They're not coming close. Even if they add another top 6 forward, there's no guarantee. It's going to be a struggle. But next year, now you bring in Demidov and maybe a free agent. Okay. And then year 4 and year 5. So they're in a situation that by year 5 of this rebuild, I think this is going to be a really good hockey team. I think it's really going to be a good hockey team. You've got Jacob Fowler coming up as a goalie too. He's probably a couple of years away from being ready to compete for the number 1 job. You mentioned Lane Hudson. They have so many Logan Mayhews. They have so many young defensemen. Reinbacher. This will be a huge year for Reinbacher. It'll be good that they have him in Laval. Rob Ramage spoke at the development camp. Reinbacher wasn't there, but he said how important it was to get him to Laval last season at the end, because he had a horrible season. He went through 3 coaches over in Europe, struggled, was trying to do too much. Not a good year for him. The Canadians are the first to admit that. So now they're going to have him in Laval for a full year. And we saw what happened with Logan Mayhew with a full year in Laval and how he developed. So there's as I said, 2 years from now, 1 year from now, Demidov coming in. 1 year from now, maybe Reinbacher develops in Laval and he's ready to step in. If not, 2 years from now. So it's all, I think 2 years from now is when this team is really going to be on the verge of, okay, now we can make the playoffs.
I'm excited to see where the blue line goes from this year to next year, because they're not going to have David Savard anymore. They got a ton of young prospects, potential prospects, too many, frankly.
They got to make a trade.
So, there are all these young, exciting names. We could rattle them off, off the top of our heads. But I'm also excited to see who they bring in for the blue line, because Mike Matheson's not going to be the only veteran on this blue line. There's no way.
No,
you're not going to have success. You're just not going to.
David Savard, I think, is going to start as Lane Hudson's partner. I think that's just makes sense to put Lane Hudson with and sort of playing with the steady. But I mean, we saw how much Arbor Jackie's game improved after he came back from Laval, and they put him with David Savard. I think they'll start that way. I don't necessarily think they'll finish that way. Mike Matheson was asked near the end of the season, can you have Mike Matheson and Lane Hudson, two sort of offensive mind defensemen on the same team? He's like, why not? It's and for a team that needs to create offense. But you're right. So Savard will be dealt by the trade deadline. He might even be dealt before the season starts, depending on what the offers are that Kent Hughes gets. But right, I mean, Justin Barron, they got to either create a spot for him in Montreal, or they're going to lose him on waivers if they try and send him back to Laval. Logan Mayo, is he better off playing with now? Is he ready to make the jump to the Canadiens, or is he better off spending yet another year in Laval? But so those are all the decisions they need to make. And you said they need to move. They need to move some defensemen. They need to move at least one to open up. Either you're keeping Justin Barron, or you're losing him for nothing. That's basically what it is now. Because if he goes on waivers, somebody's going to take him with former first round pick with just over $1 million a year salary that he just signed them to. He won't clear waivers.
No chance. So we'll see. We'll see where the blue line goes from here. We'll see where the Canadiens go from here. Again, every week that passes, listen, Premier League, it's starting today. That means the NFL season's just around the corner, which means the NHL preseason is just around the corner. And then before you know it, it's October, and the NHL season starts, and the Canadiens are in game one.
I think the golf tournament, if I'm not mistaken, is September 16th. So we're
that's a month from today.
Away. Yeah, 1 month away. It's crazy. Summer goes too fast, man. It's too short.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So let the circus, I guess, commence. Not quite yet, but we'll get there. Stu, thank you very much for joining me. Enjoy the concert tonight. Enjoy the festival, and stay hydrated over there.
All right. Take care. Have a good weekend.
That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt Ohayon for producer Shane. Have a great weekend, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.